President William Ruto's decision to assent to that Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill, now an act, paves way for the setting up of a new electoral commission. But what really are the changes in the new IEBC law? That is what we are seeking to delve into this morning. And in studio with us for this conversation is Advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Nuruddin Kagai, as well as Gender Justice Advocate Wanjiku Thiga. We'd like to invite you to take part in this conversation as well. Just speak to us on X at K24 TV. The hashtag is New Dawn. You can also send in your comments on our SMS feedback line 21222. According to the new IEBC Act, the vice chairperson of the commission will not automatically become the chairperson whenever a vacancy occurs. Let's take a look at what's making headlines on the front page of the Standard newspaper. At the bottom there, the Standard newspaper lays out what is in the in-tray following that signing of the IEBC Act. And so the signing into law by the president also kickstarts the rigorous process of appointing new commissioners. That is one. It will also be instrumental in ending the plight of voters in Banisa constituency and two other wards that have to go to a by-election and have not been represented for over a year. And it will also commence the boundaries delimitation exercise that was supposed to have been concluded by March of 2024. This is an elephant in the room, which we'll be discussing in the course of this discussion. And the new laws there now also show that IEBC commissioners must have at least 10 years experience in the areas of study, with IT as one of the key fields. Let me begin with you, Nuruddin, as to what next now? Following the signing of the bill, a lot needs to happen legally. What is the next step?
First and foremost, I foresee a petition in court challenging the constitutionality of the select committee or the panel. This is because, you know, the amendment bill that was signed yesterday now, which is an act, we were amending the IBC Act 2011, right. So we were putting in an amendment. And so the insertion that they deleted paragraph 2 and they've put in a new paragraph 2. And they are saying that the panel will consist of 2 persons nominated by PSC representing the majority party or coalition of parties and the minority party or coalition of parties. 3 persons nominated by the political parties liaison committee. 1 shall be from a party other than the parliamentary party or coalition of parties. 1 shall be from a parliamentary party or coalition of parties forming a national government. 1 shall be from a parliamentary party or coalition of parties not forming the national government. And then 1 person from LSK, and then 1 person nominated by the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, 2 persons nominated by the Interreligious Council. So now, the issue here is that the political class will have as a larger say, because when you say 2 persons nominated by PSC representing the majority party and minority party, and then 3 persons nominated by the political parties liaison committee, it means they have 5. So out of the 9, they control 5 in the panel. They'll decide who goes there. So that means the political class are taking care of their interests that are 2027 interests. So my question is, when that happens, the selection panel will do some interviews here and there, and you'll end up with a commission. So if you have 5 out of 9, you're already when there's a vote of whoever makes it to the commission, of course the five of you will have a say, all right? So that means the political interests have been catered for. What about the interests of Chapter 6? What about the credibility of these individuals? So we have a scenario where we might have another scenario of another Chapter 4, where some will walk out because they were representing certain political interests. They say, oh, we don't support this. And it's not the first time it happened. We don't support this. We believe that these are the results. So that is why I'm saying I foresee a constitutional petition in court, because some will feel that the political elite have looked more into their interests as opposed to the interests of the country. And it should not be lost to you that the president had signed an earlier amendment. Because, you know, there was an amendment that was signed that brought about the mandamanos that Azmi was doing. Where in that amendment that he had signed, the Parliamentary Service Commission was to be presented by 4 members. The Law Society was to have 1 member, the Political Liaison Committee plus the Public Service Commission were to have 1 member each, and then the Council of Religious Groups were to have 2 members. There they felt that the president had an upper hand because he was able to influence as to who might make it to the commission, and that's why they were on the streets.
Right.
Now today, IEBC has reunited them because now their interests have been catered for, the political class. That is why we saw them there together as you were signing it, and they even made a presser. So it means that since their interests are catered for, my question is, where do the interests of those they are meant to serve, that is being Kenyans, who caters for the interests?
Okay, all right, and you bring in important points. Wanjiku, this new electoral law was birthed by recommendations contained in the NADCO report, which sought to, among others, entrench justice in the electoral process and reconstitute the IEBC. And so it establishes a roadmap for starting the process of recruitment. Then Nurdin raises credible questions as to whether there's really anything new with regard to the selection of the IEBC panel. What are your thoughts on whether, because this has been anchored in the NADCO report, what are your thoughts on that, first of all, as being the basis, and whether the selection of this panel will serve the interests of not the political class, but the electorate?
Thank you, Michelle, for the question. I appreciate the new IEBC bill today we have. Particularly, we have 2 extra candidates who have been added. Ideally, as a gender justice advocate, I would have loved to see a representation of the women of Kenya. We have bodies that, at the end of the day, today, that serve the interest of women in Kenya. And of course, they have said it has to the composition of the commissioners has to be cognizant of the 2/3 gender principle. Before the former IEBC commissioners, it wasn't 2/3. It did not observe the 2/3. It just only had 2 women over 7. Where this time round, I appreciate the fact that it has been put there, but I would like to see it implemented. Again, there is a hiccup of not seeing women representation also being nominated. I see LSK, which is an important body, being there. We have bodies such as National Women's Steering Committee. If we will have also a representation, it would be good. For me also is to see Interreligious Council being part of it. It worries me, Michelle, because sometimes we see religion being partisan in this country. And they have to really, at the end of the day, put their foot down and really remain non-partisan. Because at the end of the day, also, religious bodies are also patriarchal institutions. Right. At the end of the day, are they going to serve the women of Kenya, their interest? So at the end of the day, I appreciate this bill today, because even as the National Women's Steering Committee, we had put forth our own memoranda, and we also put forth regarding other bills which are very important for women political participation, such as, and they went to Senate, the Elections Amendment Act, the Political Parties Act. But IEBC Amendment Bill is also a step towards our direction to what we foresee and what we've put forth for women of Kenya. You
take a look at page 5 of the People Daily. This new law has actually expanded the criteria on commissioner appointments. It's, for example, included IT and accounting expertise as part of what the commissioners need to have, including over 10 years experience in several fields. And so that essentially will lock out the Gen Z youth from being part of the commissioners, clearly. But the youth are now championing to be included or to be part of the selection panel for the recruitment of commissioners. And in fact, we had a report earlier today, many saying then that would show goodwill, because this was based on the NADCO report, which the youth also largely were not involved. And like Nurdin says, sought to serve the interests of the political class. What are your thoughts on the push to now have a young person or a youth representative on the IEBC selection panel?
Michelle, you know, for me, I really advocate for representation of young people, of a youth on the table, because they're able to see intersectional issues that affect young people. And seeing actually having IT as something of merit so that you can be able to qualify, emphasizes on the issue of merit and how we are moving forward because today where we are a very digital and IT kind of world today. So, you know, with IT again, it helps people, let me say it expands the inclusion, because at the end of the day, people are able to access what's the word? Electoral items, electoral tools from wherever they are. So it's important to have IT. And at the end of the day, let us also very insist on merit this time around, because at the end of the day, if we don't ensure that we have merited people on the table, again, we do not use we do not use taxpayers' money to its full. At the end of the day, if you don't put somebody who's merited, they're not able to perform. And that brings a lot of stress for Kenyans and also for public bodies, even the president himself, because the body won't be able to serve Kenyans as they used. And today you can see, if Kenyans are not pleased with anything, they will go to the streets. So having merited people at the end of the day as commissioners is very important.
Right.
Again, I'm asking young people. I'm seeing young people being given opportunities to serve, and I'm seeing them really rejecting and declining. I'm asking the young person who's going to get this opportunity to please take and fully be present of the process, and really also in some way and using social media, because you know, as a single person, you're not able to meet everyone, but using their social media platforms to solicit public participation from young people. What would you like to see? And then he's able to really put forward what young people would like to see, because again, young people also have to understand that electoral process is not just the campaign period and voting, it's pre and post. So from today, from early on, we have that young person going into play. Let's all start being very active, engaging this young person. All
right. And so remember, the IEBC has been operating without commissioners for about 18 months, and the Gen Z movement has also put a lot of pressure to the reconstitution of IEBC for several other things, including representation for those who have lacked representation over the last few years, but also to ouster legislators or recall legislators who they feel have failed in their mandate. We will get to that. Nurdin, youth want to be part of the IEBC selection panel. Youth want to be part of these conversations because they say the NADCO report did not include them. Are we likely to see the political class accommodating them on the panel?
Well, you know, during the NADCO, the sittings, the youth didn't even make part of that panel. And they were just told to come and give their recommendations and leave. And some of them are not even taken up, you know, because by and large, the NADCO committee was focused on settling political interests, which we have seen that they intend to have an office of the Prime Minister, which will bring about chaos. Right. They intend to have an office, and by the way, if you have an office of the Prime Minister, they will tell you for inclusivity, he or she must have 2 deputies, and then they will talk about having the office of leader of official opposition. If you ask me, the constitution does not envisage such, because the leader of minority in parliament is the opposition leader at the end of the day. It's, you know, so at the end of the day, if you look at it, the youth make the biggest percentage of this country. And when these laws are made, they will affect them because they have the advantage of time. Most of these political leaders you see here are living on balanced time, you know. So the young men and women out there, when they say they want a chance to be on the table or they break the table, it is their right at the end of the day. So I do believe, even beyond the selection panel, we need to be flexible as a country and find a way how we can have a young, competent person in the commission to be a commissioner. Because if you look at how the commission is run, they have always been unable to entice or educate the populace, who are majority the young, on the importance of voting, sensitization as to voter registration. They have always failed on that. But now it has taken the hash. Just a minute.
We tried to do that actually at the end of the day with IEBC machinery. We had a youth coordinating committee. Just a minute.
At the end of the day, I even lost my train of thought. Sorry. At the end of the day, it brings about an issue of being left out. All right. Yes, that has happened, but you see, we need to go far and beyond. It has taken the harsh economic times for the young men and women of this country to realize that actions have consequences. Because at the end of the day, failure to vote or voting the wrong way leads to reject finance bill. You know, so now we're at a point where we need to be discussing when we have competent IEBC officials how we move away from the physical balloting that we do to electronic voting, because we are now more or less tech savvy. If we can call a whole president to the X space, question the president, run our things, even courts right now are digital, you know. So at the end of the day, I believe that's a conversation we need to have. So those who come into office need to be one futuristic, so that we avoid, because you have to realize that all these ballot papers issues always bring about accountability questions, because there's always a tender somewhere that brings about someone misappropriated funds. So if we are going to bring about a new commission, I hope and pray that it will be futuristic, it will uphold Chapter 6 of the Constitution, which is very silent, because most of these appointments, most of these individuals who go there, they forget to uphold the Chapter 6 of the Constitution. All right.
And your thoughts on Jiku, because you know, now all eyes were on political parties to see whether, you know, in their several nominations to the selection panel, they will prioritize giving those nominations to the youth within their parties. But as we wind up on this conversation of inclusion, the president has 14 days to name a new team, and then within 90 days of his appointment, the team needs to have been forwarding the names of nominees for the IEBC commissioners. What for you should be the next step for youth seeking to actively participate in the governance of this country? Because then the IEBC reconstitution is core moving forward.
Yeah, and you know, it's really mandated, it comes out from the IEBC amendment bill that delimitation of electoral units are coming up. So this calls for public participation. So young people have to attend public participation this time around. It won't be on the streets, it will go back to our constituencies. So, like for me, I ran for office in 2022. I had, my ward has 30,000 voters. 30,000 voters to another constituency will give somebody an MP. That's a constituency or a gubernatorial seat. So again, it goes back to resources and how resource sharing in Kenya. So these are the things that young people have to look out for. It's an opportunity for us to be on the decision making table. And honestly, we are asking that the state officers that will be present for public participation, may they honestly give back our feedback, because public participation has had its challenges, that they don't get to give back the feedback that people are giving. So not only should young people attend public participation, they should follow up the reports that are going back to state or government bodies. And also I'm seeing that I'm seeing that there'll be ascertainment of inhabitants of Kenya. At the end of the day, please, for better governance, please ensure that you are participating. That at the end of the day, different communities have their own issues. Again, we have the Nubians who have their own issues when it comes to ID. Please make sure that these are the issues that are coming out, because sometimes you have this habit of always complaining, and we're not using the infrastructure that is provided. Again, it's like young people say that we don't access, we don't know how public spending is, but we have the office of the AG and we have public reports. At the end of the day, we have reports that we can access. Again, let's really take advantage of this opportunity so that we can participate in the electoral process. And as I said, electoral process is not just voting, it's pre and post. All right. We start now.
And we'll be discussing the delimitation of boundaries after the break and how the IEBC plays in there. But Nurdin, before we go on break, many are waiting for President William Ruto to announce this new look government or cabinet in this promised reorganization of his government. But it's not just members of the cabinet and state executives on the chopping block, legislators as well, members of parliament, many of whom have really dismissed these calls for, we want to recall members of parliament. But here we are reconstituting the IEBC. Many now want to know, what does it mean after the effect, with the IEBC Act now being effective? What does it mean for those who are looking to recall their members of parliament? Where do they begin?
It means TikTok for them, because at the end of the day, Kenyans have raised their concerns. And as we speak, I think it's Kabete and Kiambu are already collecting signatures.
The Goreti South
And the Goreti South as well. So I do believe that action will happen, because at the end of the day, they need to realize that it is a hire and fire basis. They are employees of the citizens. So the process
of signature collection can begin now and not after the...
No, it can begin at any time,
because
you see what happens is, so long as you're a voter, you petition. For example, you draft a petition in writing to IEBC, and you take your signatures there, and they can start the signatures. There's nothing wrong with that. So what they have to do is, once the commission is constituted properly, they just take the signatures and make sure whoever is signing, I can tell them this, whoever is signing is a registered voter. Don't give them a chance to discredit your petition, because you know the court made it easy. Back then, Article 104 was saying that you can recall, but members of parliament will legislate on the process. So they made the process very tedious, in that you had to seek a judgment first before you end up with the process of recalling. So now the court just said grounds are there: incompetence, misconduct, violation of the constitution, and these guys, most of them, those grounds will hit them. So once you have those grounds, come up with a petition, continue the signatures, make sure 30% of the constituency, that is 30,000, support you. Make sure 15% of those signatures come from the wards. Take your petition, have the IBC do a mini poll, all right? Simple majority says this guy has to go home, have a by-election, take that person X home, have someone there who will work for you. If he or she goes there is a clown, take that clown back to a circus. There is no issue, because it is a hire and fire basis. Don't be like the president, who told us that the members of cabinet don't understand their line ministry, know nothing about what is happening, but still went ahead and gave them a new performance contract. Excuse me, who are we lying to? So at the end of the day, I don't also envy him when it comes to the cabinet, because who will he reshuffle? Who will he fire? And I can dare say, it will be noisy, messy, and with casualties. We are here waiting to hear those who will be sent home packing, what they'll bring back out here. We are ready for the violence. All
right, let's take a break on that note. We'll be back with that conversation. What Kenyans expect as the IEBC Act now takes effect. What Kenyans will see with the constitution, a reconstitution of the IEBC commissioners as well. When we come back, we'll be focusing on that all-important boundaries delimitation exercise that is now in the offing. It was meant to have happened by the 24th of March, a deadline that has since slapped. But what does it mean for you? Do stay with us. That's coming up after the break.